a woman notices disturbing changes in her boyfriend's behavior while participating in a social experiment. After a few months of dating, Tom and Eve decide to participate in a 30-day research study conducted by the Millennium Project. At first, he seems apprehensive since the study calls for married couples only. However, she says they'll lie on the application, especially since they could use the $50,000 each participating pair receives to start their lives together. At the Millennium Project office, Tom gives Eve a ring to play up their charade but promises she'll have her fairy tale wedding in the future. When she asks what the engraved 923 stands for, he says it's when she stole his heart. Then they meet with the director, the person heading the research study. The scientist asks the couple how long they've been married, so Eve lies and says a month. The older man remarks that, statistically, their marriage is doomed to fail, which the woman takes offense to. She asks the director if he's married, so he holds up his hand showing his wedding band. Then, she asks if his marriage prevailed against the odds, but he reveals that his wife passed away years ago. Embarrassed, Eve apologizes, and the scientist says his wife's death was the main reason he conducted the study. He explains that the experiment's objective is to figure out why the honeymoon phase, the blissful period early in relationships, has to end. Through the study, he hopes they'll uncover the secret to sustaining the euphoric joy of the first few months of marriage. So the director asks the couple if they think their marriage is up to the test, and Eve confidently affirms. Later, they're taken to different rooms for individual evaluation to determine their viability for the study. The interviewers ask them questions about the other person regarding what they like about each other, their best and worst memories, and the state of their physical intimacy. Eventually, they await the program's next step in a conference room with the other couples. Eve notices Tom's anxiety and says they don't have to do it if he's unsure, but he says he's alright. However, in case things go awry, he thinks they should have a safe word, and she suggests 923. Then they watch Julie and John, a middle-aged couple across the table, arguing because the husband forgot the wife's pillow at home. Moments later, the director instructs one of each pair to join their assigned doctors for the final briefing. Before separating, Tom and Eve kiss and say they'll see each other soon. In a room, a doctor injects Eve with a sedative to put her to sleep. Beside her, the director promises she'll be reunited with Tom in their new home when she wakes up. When she opens her eyes, she finds herself in an unfamiliar bedroom next to Tom. Then she gently touches the man's shoulder to wake him. The couple wanders to the living room, where they meet a hologram of a woman who calls herself the Handler. When Eve asks what she is, the Handler points to a box from which she's projected, called the Mediator. The device allows her to assist the couple without skewing the study results. For the orientation, the attendant instructs the couple to wear their headsets and explains that it'll record their brainwaves throughout the study so they can hopefully uncover the secrets of the honeymoon phase. Then for question 1, the Handler asks them to state their names. After the exercise, she advises them to contact her through the Mediator if they need her assistance. Seconds later, the couple explores the kitchen, discovering they can request any food or drink and it'll instantly appear in a compartment on the counter. While unpacking, Tom sees a bag of cookies, so Eve reveals the baked treats contain hallucinogens. As they continue exploring the house, they discover a room with a desk and an office chair. She thinks it'll be the perfect environment for him to finish his book. Then the man kisses his girlfriend, so they head to the bedroom. While undressing, they spot the camera on the wall, so she tosses her shirt on the device to cover it. Before they do the deed, Eve reminds Tom to use a prophylactic, and he obliges. After they make love, he notices the uneasy look on her face and asks if she's okay. She says he didn't feel like himself during the act, so the man apologizes because he assumed she'd like it if he was more aggressive than usual. Eventually, she waves off her concern and says he didn't do anything wrong. 2 days later, while the couple watches a movie where a woman cradles a baby after giving birth, Tom remarks that they should have a baby of their own. At first, Eve thinks he's joking, so she chuckles at his statement. However, when she sees that he meant what he said, she points out that they aren't the most qualified people to have children. Tom is silent at her response, so she says they can still make love as long as he uses a prophylactic. One night, Eve presses her boyfriend into ingesting the special cookies with her. Minutes later, the intoxicated couple couple plays hide and seek. While searching for a hiding place, she forcefully opens a bedroom door, causing the knob to punch a hole in the wall. When it's Tom's turn to hide, the woman hears screams from the front door. She sees Julie frantically crying and begging her to open the door, claiming someone's trying to kill her. However, Eve can't open it, so she calls Tom for help. Suddenly, a menacing John arrives, and he slams his wife's head on the door, rendering her unconscious. After the stunned woman watches the man carry Julie's body away, Tom appears and asks her what's wrong. She tells him what she saw, but he points out that there's no one outside. Later, Eve speaks to the director through the mediator, who informs her that no such incident occurred. However, the distraught woman insists they check the camera footage. When the scientist plays the video, there's no one outside the front door, and Eve appears to be screaming about nothing. She swears she's telling the truth, but Tom comes clean and admits they took special cookies earlier. The director concludes that the lace treats explain the hallucinations, then reminds them that illegal substances are strictly prohibited, so the boyfriend promises they won't do it again. The next day, an irritated Eve tells her boyfriend to stop playing the piano because she has a headache, and he mentions that he doesn't remember the notes to the song. In the kitchen, the woman takes medication for her headache before tossing the remaining special cookies into the garbage disposal. Later, he tells her that while intoxicated last night, he thought about what their future kids might look like, leading to him seriously considering starting a family. Annoyed, she points out that they're almost halfway through their stay, yet he still hasn't made significant progress with his book. When he admits he's suffering from writer's block, she callously orders him to do whatever it takes to unblock it. Realizing she was out of line, Eve promises they can talk about starting a family when he finishes the book. Optimistic, Tom heads to the office to continue writing. Hours later, the woman joins her boyfriend in the office to show him the book cover she designed. Although he appreciates the effort, he shows her that he hasn't written anything since they arrived at the house. He confesses that he has doubts about pursuing writing as a career, worried he might not be able to provide for her or their future family. She reminds him that they always planned for him to write the books while she designs the covers. She implores him to remember his dreams of book signings and movie deals and promises to be by his side no matter how tough things get. When she heads out of the room, she hears the handler's whispered voice warn her not to trust Tom. Later, the man suggests they take a bath in the tub together, but because she's still bothered by the voice she heard earlier, she says she's going to bed. The next day, Tom sees the vacation photos on Eve's laptop and says he loved that trip. However, she reminds him that she photoshopped his face in the pictures. He says he knew that and mentions it was the first time she realized she couldn't live without him. That night, the woman asks the handler why she said Tom isn't trustworthy. The hologram says her boyfriend isn't who she thinks he is, and she's surprised the woman hasn't noticed. Before the handler can elaborate, the transmission is cut short. Eve tries to reset the mediator, but it only projects a standby image. Later, Eve asks Tom if he's messing with her. Perplexed, he wonders why she'd ever think that, so she reveals that the handler told her not to trust him. Furious, the man says he'll speak to the attendant, but the woman stops him. She asks why he didn't hallucinate the night they ate the cookies and why he's certain Julie and John weren't there. Tom explains that she had a bad trip, and he's sure he didn't see anyone by the door. Eve wonders why the handler would fabricate stories about her boyfriend, so he theorizes that they're trying to drive them apart for the experiment. When he still feels her doubting him, the man reminds his girlfriend that he's never lied to her, so she promises to never question him again in the future. The following morning, Eve happily decorates the Christmas tree. Then, the handler appears to ask if she needs any assistance, but the woman declines the offer and covers the mediator's lens with an ornament. While in front of a mirror, she notices that her stomach is more prominent than usual but pays it no mind. That night, she leads her boyfriend to the living room so they can make love on the floor. However, she pushes him away after a few seconds of kissing. When he asks what's wrong, she says he isn't kissing her the way he usually does. So Tom tries again, but Eve shakes her head. Annoyed, the man holds her face and continues kissing her, but he pushes her to the floor when she bites his lip. 5 days later, Tom's and the handler's voices wake Eve. Before exiting the bedroom, she peeks through the hole in the wall and sees a person through a grate on the floor. She overhears her boyfriend telling the attendant that she doesn't trust him, so the handler says she'll prescribe a light sedative for the woman. In the living room, Eve confronts her boyfriend and accuses him of telling the attendant evident that she is mentally unstable while knowingly giving her sedative medication. The handler and the boyfriend try to calm her down, but the furious woman storms off. That night, Eve feels nauseous, so she runs to the bathroom to throw up. She calls Tom to the bathroom and says she might be pregnant. Delighted, the man exclaims how excited he is to have a family. However, the woman points out that she can't be more than 2 weeks pregnant, yet her stomach has swelled significantly. She believes the scientists did something to her and tells her boyfriend that they need to leave so she can see a doctor regarding their options. When he realizes she's considering getting rid of the baby, he says he won't allow it. On Christmas Day, the couple open their gifts for each other. Tom says he loves the DVD she got him, but Eve clarifies that he hates the film and she bought it as a joke. Later, the woman uses the curling iron she received from her boyfriend. Seconds later, she tosses it in the trash can. While Tom is in the kitchen, Eve speaks to the handler to ask for help. She confesses that they aren't married and that she's worried about her rapidly swelling belly. The hologram says she can't help but warns that her boyfriend is playing her. So she heads to the office and opens up his writing pad. She sees that he still hasn't written anything since they arrived. However, when she flips the page, she's horrified to discover several pages filled with baby names. Eve confronts her boyfriend in the kitchen, who says he isn't inspired to write. Furious, she holds the writing pad before him and screams at him to write, but he refuses. In the bathroom, the frustrated woman kicks the trash can. Suddenly, she spots the prophylactic wrappers and shockingly realizes that the man punched holes in them, leading to her pregnancy. Later, she invites the man to join her for a bubble bath. While playing Never Have I Ever, she reveals that she knows he tried to get her pregnant, and the boyfriend explains he only wanted a family. Seconds later, Eve utters 923, their safe word. However, Tom doesn't know what the numbers mean, and the woman realizes what the handler said might be true. Before heading to the bedroom, she secretly grabs a knife from the kitchen. In bed, the man tries to initiate lovemaking despite the woman's protestations. So she grabs the knife from under the pillow and she slashes his arm, then locks herself in the bathroom. Determined to get rid of the baby, Eve uses the curling iron on her body. Alarmed, Tom breaks the glass door and tosses the curling iron in the bathtub, resulting in a power outage. Furious, he instructs that she hug him when the power returns to play up appearances, and vows that he'll kill her if she tries to hurt their baby again. When the light turns on, he pretends he's comforting the pregnant woman. The following day, the director informs the couple that because he deems the pair unfit to continue, he's decided to terminate their stay. While the boyfriend squeezes her thigh, Eve explains that Tom helped her through her problems last night, then begs that they finish the entire month. The director accepts but says he'll prescribe a more potent sedative for the remaining days. When she asks where the handler is, the scientist says they removed her from the study. For their daily exercise, the older man asks how their partner has changed in the last month, but Eve lies and says that Tom hasn't changed at all. That evening, the man prepares a surprise meal for his girlfriend. However, he doesn't give her a knife in case she plans on using it against him. Then, he asks the woman to slow dance with him. Unbeknownst to the man, Eve tucked her fork inside her pants. While dancing, the frightened woman asks where Tom is. The boyfriend tells her to stop asking questions and accept that they'll finish the 30 days no matter what. He says he loves her and their baby and assures that she'll learn to love him too. When Tom kisses her, Eve grabs the fork and stabs his side several times. Then she grabs the knife from the table to protect herself. After he passes out, she heads to the bedroom and rips open the hole in the wall. She climbs down onto the platform and realizes they built the house inside the facility. Then, the woman reaches a hallway where she sees doors labeled replication room and incubation room. To avoid detection, Eve enters a room where she sees dozens of identical women who look like the handler, lying on hospital beds while attached to ventilators. On the wall, she sees graphics detailing the memory mapping progress of the cloned subjects, one of which is Tom. Suddenly, the director arrives along with several armed guards. The scientist reveals that they cloned her boyfriend, but when she asks where he is, he says they still need him to fill in the gaps in his clone's memory. He explains that before the experiment, they could barely map memory to the brain. However, when they used multiple couples with clone spouses, each imprinted with a different technique, they were able to create the perfect imprinting map. When the scientist refuses to tell her where Tom is, Eve removes one clone's breathing tube and threatens to kill her. She tells the guards to kick their weapons over and orders the director to bring her boyfriend to her immediately. While two guards fetch Tom, Eve deduces that the disoriented clone is Samantha, the director's late wife. Despite the scientist's plea to withhold the truth from the clone, Eve tells the woman that she's merely a copy of someone else and that her husband experimented on her. Eve asks why he used Samantha's clones as handlers, and the older man says so they can find the perfect one. He believes the clone in front of him is the one he's been looking for, and he tells her he loves her. However, the clone says she doesn't feel the same way. Suddenly, the guards return with a battered Tom, reuniting the couple. Seconds later, Eve fires the weapon, taking down the scientist, the clone, and the guards. As they leave the room, the woman grabs one of the guards' handguns. In the hallway, another Tom appears, confusing the woman since they have similar injuries on the side of their torsos. Because the clone now has 100% memory mapping from the real Tom, they each try to prove that they're the real one by reciting specific facts about the relationship. To differentiate the two, Eve threatens to shoot her stomach because she knows the clone values the baby over her. One Tom tells her to pull the trigger, while the other begs her not to. Ultimately, she shoots the Tom who wanted to save the baby. While they escape, Eve begins to bleed profusely, leading to her losing the child. Weeks later, the couple finally gets married, determined to start their life anew. That afternoon, they're about to make love, so she tells him to use a prophylactic. In the middle of the deed, the woman spots the wrapper on the bedside table and sees a hole. She realizes she shot the wrong Tom and married the evil clone who tormented her. Eve tries to escape, but the clone overpowers and strangles her until she perishes. Realizing what he's done, the man tries resuscitating her, but it proves futile. To cover his tracks, the clone sets up a scene that implies Eve took her own life. After taking one last look at the woman, he walks out of the room and closes the door behind him.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.